Episode 1 opens its fifth arc with two mysterious figures casually appearing in the sky, clearly here to conquer the world. Humanity's appointed hero, Zhuo Yi, showed up ready to throw down with these interlopers. But the sheer oppressive aura they casually emitted instantly flattened our hero. Just then, Urha conveniently popped in, delivering a dire warning. These were literal demon children, and Zhuo Yi had zero chance of winning. With that, Urha instantly reverted to its original form, ready to team up with Wang Ling and go toe-to-toe with that other kid. As the battle kicked off, the subordinate and Wang Ling simultaneously clashed, their mere approach instantly erasing the city below. The girl, wielding what looked like some kind of Nobita-level absurd gadget, sprayed a barrage of projectiles towards Wang Ling, but our boy Wang Ling casually dodged every single projectile, and the subordinate's attempted sneak attack amounted to nothing. Wang Ling retaliated by unleashing a devastating blast at both opponents, but the subordinate somehow managed to deflect it. After a quick but devastating exchange, both sides decided it was time to unleash their ultimate moves. Meanwhile, Wang Ling's parents, casually watching from below, shouted, "Come on, as the older brother, you should be letting your younger sibling win." Turns out, this epic city-destroying showdown was just a sibling squabble. And as the two ultimate attacks collided, bringing about the end of the entire world, that's when Mrs. Wang jolted awake from her terrifying nightmare. Seeing his mom completely drained, Wang Ling casually decided to have his girlfriend book her a checkup at the most exclusive VIP hospital in the entire land. Thanks to his Chi-Ball heiress girlfriend's 5-star connections, Wang Ling's entire family got to chill in a top-tier VIP suite, indulging in gourmet food and drinks. Despite the luxurious surroundings, Mrs. Wang was still incredibly tense. Even though this wasn't her first pregnancy, she was terrified that yesterday's world-ending nightmare might somehow become reality. Meanwhile, little Era was giving all the mortal doctors major side-eye, clearly thinking they knew absolutely nothing about how the universe actually worked. While everyone else was still busy chatting with the doctors, our boy Wang Ling's attention had already casually drifted to a nearby bookshelf. With the god-tier processing power of a literal gaming prodigy, our young master effortlessly memorized every single book on that shelf, all just to be the best older brother. Just then, Sunrong, our top-tier waifu, led Wang Ling's squad in, all ready to congratulate him on getting a new little sister. Noticing Chen Chao getting a bit too hyped with his congratulations, Sunrong had to gently remind everyone that they were actually here for volunteer work today. It turns out, a whole bunch of other kids were also there for health checkups, as these results were crucial criteria for their entrance exams into the next school level. Some kids were already visibly disappointed, their test results clearly not meeting expectations. Others, however, were flexing some seriously overwhelming power, like this beefy kid right here. He's only 8 years old, yet he casually clocks in at 260 kilograms. Talk about an early growth spurt. But the absolute standout among the crowd had to be little Ming, his parents. Let's just say they're very big shots. From a ridiculously young age, he'd already reached the 7th stage of chi refinement, and even had a small posse of followers, living that full-on domineering CEO vibe. As expected, little Ming's ridiculously overpowered results garnered massive attention from everyone present. His mom, of course, was practically cackling, proudly exclaiming, "My son is just too talented, everyone." Even Ura had to begrudgingly admit this kid was ridiculously overpowered. Ura's exact words: "If he wasn't stuck in the same world as that guy, he'd absolutely be the main character right now." And just like that, little Ming casually bumped right into our protagonist, Wang Ling. For little Min, Wang Ling was just some kid he'd totally schooled in a battle of wits. He even casually poked fun at Wang Ling a few times, much to the exasperation of his friends. Bro really went and poked the literal top 1 server. He has no idea. After his test, little Min descended with a swagger so big, he practically floated, making sure the other kids knew what a true genius looked like. Seeing Wang Ling's mom also wanted to check on the baby, Chen Chao helped her put the monitoring bracelet around her round belly. And as the sensor cable connected, the baby's heartbeat suddenly turned into a symphony, drawing all attention to Mrs. Wang. These folks had lived for decades, but it was their first time hearing a heartbeat so vibrant, leaving everyone around utterly bewildered. In a blink, the entire hall was swaying to the rhythm of the baby's unique melody. This, of course, absolutely infuriated little Min, who was seething that an unborn baby was stealing his spotlight. Realizing this, Mrs. Wang shed a river of tears, knowing sometimes being too healthy isn't always a good thing. Meanwhile, two suspicious figures were secretly observing the entire crowd below. Their target seemed to be children with outstanding powers, part of a scheme related to an upcoming secret realm. The short-statured captain ordered his subordinates to provide external support while he went to snatch up that kid, little Min. After getting his spotlight stolen by a baby, little Min was determined to reclaim his honor through a spirit energy test. The moment he touched the orb, a surge of green energy erupted, filling the auditorium and making his mother swell with pride. While the green energy little Min generated was still lingering, the captain stealthily advanced to seize him. However, the blatant killing intent radiating from him was instantly picked up by Wang Ling. But our boy only dared to make a move after getting permission from Sun Rong, because, he was worried about damaging the floor. Meanwhile, the spirit energy test for the baby inside Wang Ling's mother was still underway. In just a single moment, a magnificent aura engulfed the entire room, leaving everyone utterly speechless. And little Min? He was beyond furious. The spirit energy emanating from the baby was even stronger than Wang Ling's used to be. Seeing things were getting a little too out of hand, our boy casually used a memory-wiping spell on everyone. But he didn't erase Sun Rong's memories, thanks to a special bond between them known as the Great Covenant. While everyone was in chaos, the captain used a cicada's shell escape trick, but Wang Ling's face was basically screaming, "You're not getting away, son." With that, he ordered his sword spirit to chase after the captain, and while it was at it, wipe out their entire hideout. Wang Ling's previous attack, though seemingly simple, came with a severe injury effect that didn't give the guy time to recover. They were regretting not catching anyone significant, completely unaware they were about to become headlines in the epic fail section. That's why the captain shifted his target to Wang Ling's mother, hoping to hit his year-end KPIs for the esteemed Lord Spirit Venerable. If word got out, other teams would totally swoop in and steal his prey. Afterward, the two flew back to their base to strategize, completely oblivious that the sword spirit was secretly tailing them. And once the enemy base was located, our boy casually made them exit the game of Earth in a single note. Back at the nursing institute, little Min sat sadly outside, waiting for the results late into the night. The kid was a bit disappointed that he couldn't find out his own test results. Seeing this, Sun Rong approached the kid to comfort him. "Look, when you run into a game-breaking cheat code like that, there's not much you can do." She also gifted Xiaoming a portrait statue of his ultimate city hero, a dude the kid practically worshipped. Just one look at the statue, and Xiaoming seemed to instantly get his mojo back. Clenching the gift tightly, the kid silently vowed to chase down his dreams with everything he had. Meanwhile, the Sword Saint, ever curious about his junior brother's recent situation, made his way to the demonic Pine Sea prison for a quick checkup. This place was basically a VIP lounge for countless terrifying demons and monsters, each packing seriously frightening power. But somehow, every single one of them was held firmly in place by the institution's absolutely brutal security system. Defenses were beefed up every single year, even sporting a magical god-tier intelligence gate that made it practically impossible for even a fly to sneak through. At the very end of this intensely secure corridor was Chen Nanshuan's personal exclusive cell. The moment the Sword Saint pushed open the door, he was genuinely taken aback by his junior brother's surprisingly gentle, almost adorable, demeanor. His eyes in particular seemed way clearer, almost pristine compared to before. The warden figured Chen Nanshuan had probably, at least for now, managed to suppress his inner demon. But since his cultivation technique was just way too demonic, he was still forced into solitary confinement. Because any tiny slip-up and that inner demon was guaranteed to make a comeback. The warden had initially planned to throw Chen Nanshuan into a heaven-tier cell, all thanks to his absurdly overpowered strength. But turns out that very cell was already occupied by someone so dangerous, a mere glance would be enough to reawaken Nanshuan's inner demon. After hearing that, the Sword Saint just nodded in full agreement. Because that year, he and the others had an absolute nightmare just trying to capture that dude. Alright, let's pivot to Wang Ling's squad. This time around, the principal handed the entire crew a super-secret mission. Figure out how to escape from a certain sealed chamber. The test location? None other than the demonic Pine Sea prison, aiming to evaluate the durability of their spanking new cell system. The principal even gave them the green light to use any and all methods to bust out of that place. And yes, that included violence. Hearing that, everyone instantly got nervous, knowing full well that if Wang Ling so much as sneezed wrong, the entire prison could be flattened into dust in a literal blink of an eye. Wang Ling, however, seemed completely preoccupied with something else entirely, a problem far bigger than just breaking out of jail. The reason? His parents had pulled Wang Ling aside early this morning for a chat, and then handed him a monumental, super important task. Anyway, back to the mission. The 6-person team was split into 3 different pairs. Chen Chao and Guo Hao were absolutely terrified the moment they first stepped foot into that prison. The second a surveillance robot popped up, they both freaked out and clung to each other like their lives depended on it. Seeing this spectacle, the warden couldn't help but seriously doubt these students' capabilities, turning to ask the Sword Saint if they could actually be of any use for this test. After all, the demonic Pine Sea prison had been beefing up its defenses for literally hundreds of years. Plus, it was packing modern cultivation tech alongside some serious. Our resident prison warden, brimming with overconfidence, casually bet his job that not a single one of the 3 groups could break out. Meanwhile, in another part of this inescapable prison, our potential new waifu Tan Dong was absolutely thrilled to be sharing a room with our unbothered MC Wang Ling. Just as she was enjoying this rare, cozy moment, the butler robot Wa suddenly popped up, proudly announcing itself as the grand representative of Tunghai's advanced intelligent defense system. This butler robot then declared it would use every possible measure to ensure our two heroes wouldn't escape. Good luck with that, pal. But our unbothered MC Wang Ling seemed completely unfazed by the robot's grand declarations, apparently far more concerned about the super important, totally mundane task his parents had given him that morning. Tan Dong, seeing this, got a little worried, realizing his seal might just be about to snap. But of course, when a bag of snacks mysteriously appeared on the floor, Wang Ling, as any true OP protagonist would, immediately went for them without a second thought. Right after that, a massive iron cage materialized out of thin air, trapping our snack-loving MC inside. Seeing this, Tan Dong valiantly rushed to use her skills and rescue Wang Ling. However, this prison was apparently equipped with state-of-the-art spirit energy suppression technology, which of course left her completely powerless. In stark contrast to Tan Dong's panic, Wang Ling was perfectly content, casually enjoying his snacks as if he were just chilling at home. Still, Tan Dong couldn't shake a bad feeling in her gut, because if they didn't get Wang Ling out of there ASAP, this entire unbreakable prison would probably be casually flattened by our supposedly trapped MC. Meanwhile, in another corner of this high-tech prison, Chen Chao and Guo Hao were desperately trying to figure out how to open their cell door and reunite with the others. With his spirit energy suppressed, Chen Chao tried to get creative, using the surrounding flames to boost his power. Unfortunately for him, his cultivation was only at the foundation establishment stage, so his attack was instantly countered by the door, sending both him and Guo Hao flying. Noticing their obvious discouragement, the butler robot decided to generously offer them another chance. The catch was a ridiculously difficult math problem that even the academic genius Guo Hao was utterly stumped by. Meanwhile, in yet another section, Xiao Yu and Ha were relentlessly assaulting their own iron door. But this door, forged from some kind of special regenerative material, was barely even scratched by their continuous assaults. With no other option, Ha climbed onto Xiao Yu's head and dramatically switched into giant cannon mode. All it needed was enough accumulated spirit energy, and that door would be toast. But right at that critical moment, Xiao Yu, suspecting Ha was just messing around, suddenly struck out, knocking Ha flat onto the floor. In the observation room, our smug warden was practically high-fiving himself, convinced he'd won his bet, when suddenly, a blaring alarm shattered his victory dance. It announced an escape incident in the high-security, disc-level prison zone. Our unbothered MC, getting a weird hunch, casually obliterated his iron cage and stepped out like it was nothing. Witnessing this display, the butler robot completely freaked out, but oh boy, things were just getting started. With just one ridiculously simple move, Wang Ling effortlessly obliterated the iron gate, completely ignoring the impossible math problem. He even looked like he was about to casually show the butler robot the true meaning of existential dread. But thankfully, Tan Dong intervened just in time. She was really hoping Butler Bot would just play dumb, letting our OP protagonist Wang Ling unleash his full power without any pesky paperwork. Sure enough, the Butler Bot immediately understood the assignment and self-wiped its memory to, stay alive. Meanwhile, outside, Wang Ling was quickly spotted by one of those overzealous guard bots. Based on its instant analysis, the robot confidently declared our MC was just some lone wolf with 5 spiritual powers, full of glaring weaknesses, prone to midnight loneliness, and constantly suffering from unspoken stress. Basically, to this bot, Wang Ling was just a frail target, ripe for a one-shot takedown. But our unbothered MC Wang Ling totally ignored all its warnings. He just stood there, letting it analyze, which of course instantly crashed the robot's system. Turns out, you can't compute plot armor. Then our boy landed one simple, yet absurdly potent kick, effortlessly sending the opponent flying. Inside his cell, Chen Nanxuan, who was just about to make his chaotic escape, suddenly felt that all too familiar spiritual energy. Absolute panic mode activated. He slammed his cell door shut, scurried into a corner, and wisely decided to play dead. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, after a quick search, the whole gang was finally back together. Even though Chen Chao was secretly terrified, he still puffed out his chest, trying to comfort Wang Ling, like a toddler trying to teach a physics professor. Don't you guys worry your pretty little heads about a thing. Since the squad was finally complete, they all headed for the final exit door. The whole crew simultaneously burst through, finally free from prison. Gazing at the wide-open sky ahead, Wang Ling was suddenly hit with an epiphany. He finally figured out the perfect, most meaningful name for his baby sister, Nuan. It was only then that Sun Rong realized Wang Ling's complete lack of focus all day wasn't due to the high-stakes mission, but because he was literally just brainstorming baby names. Episode 3 kicks off at some shadowy base, where spiritual venerable Ling Zun is having an absolute meltdown. Apparently, the five-element spiritual energy he'd meticulously hoarded for centuries just got nuked in the blink of an eye. According to his trembling subordinate's initial report, this little incident just might, be connected to that southern branch cave dwelling getting mysteriously flattened yesterday. And this crucial information? Yeah, it was reported a little late. Which, of course, sent spiritual venerable Ling Zun into an instant, full-blown rage fit. "Subordinate," he roared. "Why are you only telling me this today?" The terrified subordinate stammered back. "Well, sir, according to Ye Kui's crisis response manual, these sorts of things have to pass through several different departments first, before finally making their way to you, spiritual venerable." At this, Ling Zun just about blew a fuse. Joe, pray tell, came up with that utterly idiotic process. Plot twist. He totally forgot that he was the one who proposed it in the first place. In a fit of pure, unadulterated embarrassment, Ling Zun casually yeeted the poor subordinate straight to the afterlife. Still in a furious frenzy, he bellowed orders for all his subordinates to immediately investigate and figure out who dared to blow up his cave dwelling. Just then, the Rat Squad leader conveniently showed up with some fresh intel. According to a certain VIP from the Ghost Pine Sea prison, the real mastermind behind everything is none other than the dude in that painting. Meanwhile, our MC's dad was scrolling through the latest updates on the year's top authors, feeling completely drained. His rankings kept plummeting, and his creative well was completely dry, leaving him with a serious case of writer's block. And of course, the publisher kept hounding him for a new volume, pushing our poor dad further into a state of absolute helplessness. All that accumulated stress had literally cost him every single hair on his head. Our MC and his trusty familiar Hao couldn't help but gape at his dad's perfectly shiny bald head. Our MC's mom also looked visibly heartbroken seeing her husband in such a state. After all, little Nuan's due date was fast approaching, and getting everything ready for the baby required a serious chunk of change. Under all that pressure, Wang's dad was forced to start planning a new project, but inspiration was still nowhere to be found. Our MC, seeing the distress, calmly walked into the room. He was totally ready to flex his OP powers to help his struggling dad out. In just a few seconds, all the best plot ideas would be neatly compiled for him. But our MC's dad, ever the proud one, flat out refused. As the unwavering pillar of the family, he wanted to face and conquer this mountain of messy scripts on his own terms. After a passionate night of battling his keyboard, he eventually passed out from exhaustion. The next morning, our MC's dad was still groggy when a knock came at the door, revealing none other than our MC's future waifu, Sun Rong. Seeing that her future father-in-law desperately needed inspiration for his next novel, she decided to take him out for a change of scenery. Since staying cooped up wasn't helping, Wang's dad finally agreed to join Sun Rong and our MC in the car. Everyone piled into the special ride, which was naturally transformed by Hao himself. Just before they took off, our MC sensed something was off, feeling a suspicious gaze watching them from above. Turns out, this assassin dude, under orders from Ling Zun, was here to take out a target, and this time, the target was none other than our MC's dad. Once everyone buckled up, Hao immediately took off towards the legendary Chen family martial arts dojo. Our assassin friend was totally bewildered, because who expects a regular bus to suddenly sprout wings and fly into the sky? But Hao wasn't done yet, casually swatting the assassin into the stratosphere just for daring to follow them. After a smooth ride, they arrived at the Chen family dojo, where they were warmly welcomed by Old Man Chen and his son, Chen Chao. They'd heard about Wang's dad's struggles from our MC, so they wanted to demonstrate the legendary Chen family's ancestral blade techniques to spark some creative inspiration. Then Chen Chao and his dad stepped onto the training grounds, each with a formidable blade in hand. With just a casual flick of their wrists, their blade aura effortlessly shattered a giant boulder right before their eyes. Naturally, everyone present erupted into applause and awe. Old Man Chen, looking somewhat proud, casually praised his son for having improved a little, but added that he still hadn't grasped the true peak of blade mastery yet. Chen Chao was absolutely beaming, hugging Wang Ling with joy, finally proud of his son. Turns out, old Chen was only strict because he didn't want our overpowered MC getting too cocky. Next up, it was time for old Wang and Wang Ling to show what they got. With zero cultivation, just getting this ancient saber off the ground was a whole quest for old Wang. But our OPMC just casually flicked his hand, sending a powerful saber slash straight into the sneaky little rat trying to peek from a distance. After leaving Chen's training hall, the crew headed over to the Guo family's beast manor. Guo Hao, having heard old Wang's story from Wang Ling, got an idea to assist him with some spirit beasts. This time, he picked out a high-tier spirit beast, the lightning bear. To even get his paws on it, Guo Hao had to personally trek all the way to this creature's homeland. His genius plan: use the lightning bear's electricity to stimulate acupoints, boosting blood circulation, and making old Wang's mind sharper than ever. Old Wang was totally on board at first, But the moment he heard an adult lightning bear could zap him with tens of millions of volts, he instantly noped out. Guohao, being the smart one, had already prepared an adorable baby bear cub just for him. In just a blink, old Wang went from a grumpy old man to a certified genius. Feeling a little too effective, he instantly wanted to try it out on the adult lightning bear. Meanwhile, that sneaky rat was chilling on the rooftop, secretly scoping out the scene. He was totally shook to see such a high-grade spirit beast just chilling here, so he decided to snag it for his boss, the Lord Spirit Venerable. Little did he know, that move made the baby bear cub cry, instantly triggering the incredibly protective adult lightning bear. It instantly unleashed millions of volts on that rat, making sure he understood the feeling of utterly failing to meet his KPIs. Old Wang, completely freaked out, immediately dipped from the scene and got into the car for their next stop. By now, he seemed to have completely regained his vibe, looking like a whole new person. Then, old Wang stopped at a wooden sword stall, reminiscing about the time he bought a sword for Wang Ling. But the moment he started talking, the sword-selling woman suddenly lunged and attacked Wang Ling. Her relentless, super dangerous stabs made him struggle a bit, but even that wasn't enough to genuinely bother our OPMC. With just one casual palm strike, he effortlessly knocked the woman down. It was only then that Sunrong and Ha realized this woman was actually Jinkei's sword sheath. Old Wang, feeling a wave of guilt, went over to talk to her. He admitted he also had a part to play in all this drama, because way back when, he hadn't considered Wang Ling's feelings and accidentally didn't buy the sword. And that single act had made the two sword sisters suffer the pain of separation for all this time. Just as they were having their heart-to-heart, the rat guy showed up with his entire elite assassin squad, all ready to jump old Wang. The moment they geared up to strike, Jinkei instantly swooped in and possessed her older sister's body. The two sisters merged, unleashing an immense surge of power that utterly obliterated those rat clowns in the blink of an eye. A brand new, ultimate form of the spirit sword was born from the fusion of Jinkei and her older sister, now known as Jingbai. The second Jingbai showed up. His sheer aura sent shivers down the spines of all the local critters. With the sword spirit's newfound power doing all the heavy lifting, our boy Wang Ling just shrugged, figured he didn't need to lift a finger, and casually strolled back home. Episode 4. After that little family outing, our elder Wang, the legendary author, got his creative mojo back and made a triumphant return with his latest masterpiece. In less than a month, this bad boy shattered all previous records on the charts, leaving literally everyone speechless. Elder Wang poured his entire soul into this new project. He practically threw himself headfirst into it, furiously writing day and night to churn out new chapters for his adoring fanbase. But for his two precious munchkins, Wang Ling and Wang Nuan, a little bit of hard work like this was absolutely nothing. Wang Ling's mom, seeing her husband burning the midnight oil, gently reminded him to take a break and, actually eat. That's when she casually spotted a glaring plot hole in the cultivation technique logic her husband had just penned. So, Wang Ling's mom just sat right down and calmly started sharing her thoughts with her husband, leaving Elder Wang utterly dumbfounded. Because when it came to this stuff, she was the true grandmaster. Ha, standing outside, didn't understand a single thing they were talking about, but still felt like their whole conversation was unbelievably professional. Turns out, as Wang Ling knew, his mom actually used to be an author herself, but she'd put down her pen ages ago. Meanwhile, in some random room, Teacher Fan and Teacher Kong are absolutely devouring Elder Wang's newest release. Teacher Kong felt a strangely familiar vibe from Elder Wang's writing style, almost like it was a spitting image of his own master's technique. And that master was none other than the legendary cultivator, the Ghost Mansion's spirit mother. Years ago, Teacher Kong had barely even touched the Ghost Mansion divine technique his master bestowed upon him, and he had instantly blasted his way into the loose immortal realm. However, this was all just Teacher Kong's hilarious delusion, because he literally just found that cultivation technique lying on the side of the road. The instructions literally said, "Successfully cultivate, and congratulations, you're automatically a disciple." Beyond that, Teacher Kong had also heard whispers that the Ghost Mansion Spirit Mother had once created legendary tear-breaking cultivation techniques. He desperately wanted to personally pay his respects to this master, but alas, she had vanished from the cultivation world a long, long time ago. Meanwhile, in Spirit Venerable's spooky cave, even he was intently studying this new novel. Just a quick skim, and Spirit Venerable instantly recognized that all the cultivation techniques detailed in the book screamed the familiar style of the Ghost Mansion Spirit Mother. Realizing this, Spirit Venerable immediately shelved his whole collecting 5-element spiritual energy scheme. Because let's be real, capturing pure-spirited kiddos to shove into that giant egg was taking way too much time. Meanwhile, if he could just snag the Ghost Mansion Spirit Mother and a little girl with abnormal powers, he could totally unlock the ancient cultivator's secret vault, the legendary place brimming with countless tear-breaking cultivation techniques. The hilarious kicker? The book's author, the little girl he's hunting for, and that perpetually poker-faced male cultivator are all living under the same roof. However, Spirit Venerable wasn't about to get his hands dirty directly. Instead, he dispatched his lackeys to investigate the Liu Shi sect. Because from the start, he'd concocted a classic fight east, attack west strategy, bringing him back to the classroom. Today was the final session, so Teacher Kong wanted to introduce everyone to a legendary cultivator, the Ghost Mansion Spirit Mother. Apparently, the matriarch of the Ghost Axe was a total genius when it came to creating cultivation techniques. She cooked up the Ghost Axe divine art, a mystic art focused on all things esoteric, by building on the foundations of ancient immortal techniques. Teacher Kong, not one to keep his students waiting, instantly busted out the technique. A powerful surge of energy enveloped him, leaving everyone totally impressed. But wait, there's more. With just a few casual strokes, he manifested an axe radiating absolutely terrifying power, effortlessly cleaving the table right in front of him. However, after seeing it with their own eyes, many students actually looked kinda bummed. I mean, it looked cool, but it was just like drawing an axe. It didn't feel like it could actually do any damage. Despite all that, Teacher Kong seriously told everyone they had to master the Ghost Axe divine art before graduation, which instantly triggered a collective groan of despair from the entire class. After school, Wang Ling and Sun Rong were casually chatting and walking, when our boy suddenly picked up on a super sus vibe from someone nearby. But, being Wang Ling, he decided to just let them cook and see what happened. And just like he predicted, the moment they stepped outside the school gate, a barrage of throwing stars came zooming their way. Luckily, Wang Ling, being Wang Ling, instantly reacted to shield Sun Rong. The unlucky part? Chen Chao and Guo Hao, who were trailing behind, accidentally caught the full force of the attack. Sun Rong quickly activated the Ghost Axe divine art, unleashing a flurry of slashes that effortlessly shattered their restraints and freed them. Naturally, Chen Chao and Guo Hao were super curious, so they decided to give the technique a shot themselves. Except the axes they conjured were ridiculously oversized, leaving both of them looking pretty awkward. Just as everyone was distracted, the assassin tried another sneaky attack, but Wang Ling effortlessly countered and instantly captured the guy. Meanwhile, Teacher Kong was casually handling a whole other squad of assassins, who were, naturally, absolutely no match for him. Back in the schoolyard, more students were getting completely swarmed by assassins. Most of the regular class students, sadly, were a bit too squishy. In just a blink, every single one of them was restrained. Almost everyone was panicking and terrified, but one brave soul actually decided to step up and fight. A dazzling aura flared up around him. He asked his friend behind him to yank off his sealing charm, then instantly busted out his demonic muscle transformation art. The once chubby classmate was now a hulking, muscular powerhouse, looking incredibly strong. But turns out that still wasn't enough. Before he could even do anything, he got absolutely peppered by a volley of throwing stars and collapsed, looking utterly defeated. Just when things were looking grim, Teacher Kong, of course, made his grand entrance. He swiftly unchained all the students and rallied everyone to unleash the Ghost Axe divine art together. A whole arsenal of axes was summoned, and the entire group charged forward, battle-ready, absolutely laying into the assassins without an ounce of mercy. In just a flash, every single enemy was completely... Our MC Wang Ling immediately grilled these goons about their real agenda, but these assassins were playing coy. Left with no choice, our unbothered farming king just casually flexed his ultimate skills, gently coercing them to spill every last bean. Turns out, these wannabe ninjas were just a distraction squad, buying time for another group to kidnap Wang Ling's mom. The audacity! Sensing that the vibes were off, our cozy lead told Sun Rong to guard his physical body, while his spirit form literally zoomed home in a flash. Meanwhile, back at the Wang Ling residence, his mom and future little sister were just chillin', having a good time, when the other assassin squad made their grand entrance. Wang Ling's mom tried to pull out her phone for backup, but these clowns quickly stopped her. Just when things were looking absolutely dire, an insane amount of power suddenly erupted from the literal baby in her belly, piercing the heavens, creating a ferocious storm that yeeted all the assassins away. Seeing that their entire plan just got cancelled by an infant, these goons immediately turned tail and ran. Just then, our plot armor-wearing MC made it back in the nick of time. He and his future little sister, Xiao Nuan, simultaneously unleashed the 12th level of their demonic axe god skill, conjuring a destructive warrior imbued with supreme power. Just a few lightning strikes were enough to completely obliterate these petty assassins. Afterward, our unbothered king sensed something was a bit off, so he turned to observe his mom and little sister. Apparently, the cultivation manual casually sitting next to them had accidentally made Xiao Nuan this ridiculously powerful. Episode 5. A mysterious unknown coffin popped up in the forest, so Zhuo Yi's team immediately went to investigate, and both of them were super surprised to find absolutely nothing inside the coffin. Right at that moment, a mysterious individual unexpectedly tapped both of them on the shoulder from behind. The moment he appeared, this guy immediately tried to declare a father-son relationship with our hero, Zhuoyi. Zhuoyi used his immortal sword to attack the vampire to save his teammates, but it was like a mosquito trying to bite stainless steel. Even though that move did zero damage, it gave them just enough time to use the legendary substitution jutsu to escape his clutches. However, this dude didn't really care because his true target was the Wang Ling siblings. According to Zhuoyi's investigation, the person he fought last night was Dylan, the vice chairman of the Nightfall organization. He also found out that all the recent trouble was somehow connected to Nightfall. Plus, Dylan was one of those hidden masters whose energy signature you literally couldn't detect. Because of this, the minister decided to appoint Zhuoyi as the head of the Special Investigation Unit for Nightfall, because these nation-destroying organizations needed to be eradicated. Meanwhile, Teacher Kang was stuck working overtime, even with Yuer trying to flirt him out of it. Yesterday's attack on the 60 sect had seriously affected the students. Wang Ling even requested a day off, claiming his health had always been delicate. So, Teacher Kang decided he'd pay Wang Ling's family a visit tomorrow. After some digging, Yuer brought Teacher Kang all the intel he needed about Wang Ling's parents. He suspected the student's parents might be connected to his own master. Most of all, he hoped his master would make a comeback to revive their sect. But first, maybe a little cuddle with Yuer to ease the longing. Our teacher decides to casually visit Wang Ling and his mom to investigate, while also trying to snag Mr. Wang's autograph for Yuer. Our boy Wang Ling got the heads up about this little visit the next morning. On the surface, it looked like a heartwarming student check-in, but everyone and their grandma knew he was there to sniff out our MC's family secrets. After the last episode's minor apocalypse, Wang Ling was on a temporary break from school. But as always, trouble finds our unbothered lead like a homing missile. Just as she walked in with some snacks, Wang Ling casually dropped a deep philosophical question on his mom. Do you want to be a humble, anonymous farmer, or have your name etched in legendary history books? His mom, being the ultimate chill waifu, just wanted her kids to grow up healthy and happy. Exactly what our OP lead expected. So Wang Ling decided it was time to unleash his ultimate reality-bending chill move to deal with Teacher Kang's relentless curiosity. That afternoon, Teacher Kang showed up at Wang Ling's place, probably hoping for a reunion with his long-lost master. And he was, of course, treated with the legendary hospitality of Wang Ling's family. But he immediately sensed something was off. Mrs. Wang's aura seemed way too normal compared to his supposed master. Figuring she was just hiding her true power, he pulled the classic checking the baby's pulse move to get a closer look at her ki. And the fact that Mrs. Wang immediately agreed, that caught our teacher off guard for a second. But before Teacher Kang could even lay a finger on her, boom, Sunrong popped out of nowhere, making our teacher absolutely fuming. Sunrong was just casually visiting Wang Ling and his mom, carrying a top-tier gift basket, obviously buttering up her future mother-in-law. Oh, and she also wanted Mr. Wang's autograph, especially after his latest masterpiece broke the entire internet. After Sunrong's grand entrance and greeting, Teacher Kang finally resumed his quest to check Mrs. Wang's pulse. Just as that thrilling, I'm about to uncover a legendary secret feeling washed over him. Ding dong, another round of guests showed up at Wang Ling's, making our teacher want to pull his hair out. This time it was Sunrong's grandpa, making a casual visit to his future grandson-in-law's place. Knowing Mrs. Wang was pregnant, he brought a literal 6,000-year-old peach as a gift. And of course, he had one tiny, not at all pushy request. Yep, you guessed it. An autograph from Mr. Wang, just like his granddaughter. Since Wang Ling's dad was currently in a writing seclusion, both grandpa and granddaughter had to chill for a bit before meeting the legendary author. So Teacher Kang once again picked up his pulse-checking quest for Mrs. Wang. But just as that I'm so close feeling hit him, bam, more guests showed up at his student's place. At this point, Teacher Kang was probably ready to just scream into a pillow. But when the guests are literally a sword saint and a sect master, you kinda just gotta swallow that rage and smile. These two ancient masters were also just here to check in on Mrs. Wang. But Teacher Kang knew, deep down, they were really just here for that sweet, sweet autograph from the legendary Mr. Wang. Wang Ling had to apologize, explaining his dad was in writing seclusion. But the masters were like, no worries, we can wait a few centuries. And so, Teacher Kang, with the patience of a saint, resumed his pulse-checking mission. But this time, before the aha moment could even begin, another wave of guests crashed the party, sending our teacher into full-blown existential despair. This round of guests included some high-ranking officials and a literal minister. They even brought gifts in a freaking flying saucer. When Wang Ling's casual visitors are this high tier, Teacher Kang really can't say anything, can he? When the minister casually asked why he was there, Teacher Kang just sighed and said, "Oh me, just here for Mr. Wang's autograph, like everyone else, I guess." Ha ha! Our unbothered Grandpa Wang's fan club was waiting for autographs, so the minister suggested they all meditate to calm their fanboy hearts. The result? Everyone meditated straight through the night, leaving teacher Kong looking visibly bummed out. And as night fell, the shadowy Nightshade cult finally decided to make their move. That same coffin from earlier suddenly spewed out crimson smoke, turning the entire sky blood red for some dramatic flair. Dishlan crawled out of the coffin, wearing a smirk of absolute cartoonish triumph. Because today was the day he'd send the entire Wang family packing to the afterlife, or so he thought. However, the moment Dishlan pushed open the Wang family's door, his triumphant grin completely froze over. What in the cultivation world? This house is just filled with absolute legends and top-tier martial arts masters. So, he tried to reassure himself, blaming it on being dizzy from just waking up. But the second time he peeked in, those weren't the innocent smiles of welcoming guests anymore. Shuoyi immediately recognized him as the vice leader of the Nightshade cult. So the minister quickly ordered everyone to absolutely not disturb Grandpa Wang, who was in secluded writing cultivation. The moment he finished speaking, the Sword Saint and Zhuo Yi instantly punted Dishlan right out of the Wang residence. Turns out, the Wang household had two ironclad rules. Don't interrupt the young master eating instant noodles, and don't disturb his dad while he's typing. And anyone who dared to break them, like Dishlan, would pay a steep price. After his intense writing seclusion, Grandpa Wang finally came downstairs. He was quite surprised to find the living room overflowing with gifts, but he absolutely loved the box of chocolate malt milk candies the most. Future daughter-in-law Sun Rong and Teacher Kong were the only ones who remained. Teacher Kong, frankly, wasn't strong enough to tangle with Dishlan, so Grandpa Wang just casually gave him an autograph instead. This made Teacher Kong so happy that he completely forgot the main purpose of his visit to the Wang family. Felt a little bad for him, but honestly, who cares? After running for his literal life, Dishlan finally managed to shake off those intimidating big shots. He thought he'd finally escaped, but then the Demon Kid, from the beginning of the story, just popped up out of nowhere. The Demon Kid casually mentioned he wasn't as merciful as Wang Ling, so anyone who dared to mouth off would immediately get sent to collect their bento box. After sending the Nightshade cult's vice leader to the great beyond, the Demon Kid silently vanished back into thin air. Meanwhile, the Nightshade cult leader was busy practicing some random convoluted cultivation technique when he suddenly realized his main man, Dishlan, had just poofed. Dishlan was on the verge of reaching the true immortal realm, so for his aura to just vanish like that, Ling Zun couldn't help but be a little curious. So, he decided to assign another subordinate to the task, but seeing how utterly terrified that guy was, Ling Zun just decided to personally handle it himself. Today was the Heavenly Palace Martial Arts Tournament, an epic event held only once every 4 years, gathering the nation's strongest cultivators to duke it out. Leading the grand procession into the arena was none other than the previous champion, Master Kim Dang. According to the rules, any contestant who wins the championship for 2 consecutive years gets the chance to challenge the world's strongest cultivator. And in this year's tournament, Kim Dong was widely expected to claim the title of the strongest cultivator in the human realm. And Trandong and Kwok Hao were also 2 diehard fans of Kim Dong. They heard that in the previous tournament, hardly anyone could withstand a single one of his moves. Seeing those 2 bozos being too loud, Ton Dung was about to kick them out so her future mother-in-law could rest. But a tournament that only happens every 4 years is a rare sight, so a little noise was fine. Even Vuong Noan, still in her mother's womb, was very excited about it. Seeing this, those 2 guessed that when Vuong Noan grew up, she would definitely participate in the tournament. Franxiao hoped that she would never turn out like her big brother, Vuong Ling. His spirit energy had been stuck at a pathetic 5 points his whole life, making his mother just laugh wryly. A little later, the minister officially declared the Grand Cultivator Brawl open. The first match was a battle between Kim Dang and 4 mages. Although the numbers were uneven, their overall power might not be balanced. While the cultivators fought, they would release a certain amount of spirit energy, and the underground matrix would absorb it to reinforce the seal on the demon hell barrier, ultimately becoming a plentiful source of spirit energy to seal away extremely dangerous prisoners in heaven-tier cells. Just as Kim Dang created a giant hand to attack, the barrier suddenly received a massive surge of spirit energy. And with his destructive performance in previous tournaments, Sectmaster Hugh guessed that he would simply continue to be champion this year. There were no records of Kim Dang's abilities. Moreover, his moves closely resembled those of the #1 cultivator in the human realm. Kim Dang's fighting style was eerily similar, as he always defeated opponents in a single move, so people often called him On-Skill Man. And Sectmaster Hugh thought that Kim Dang was very likely the personal disciple of the #1 cultivator in the human realm. Meanwhile, the minister expressed suspicion about Kim Dang's background because he sensed the young man's fury during his match. And even if Kim Dang was the disciple of the #1 cultivator in the human realm, no one would want to live in someone else's shadow. At the same time, Vuong Lens suddenly sneezed because someone was talking bad about him. Trancio and Kwak Hao were very curious about that number one cultivator in the human realm, because that person had never appeared in the arena, and whenever they fought, they'd fire energy blasts from afar, instantly knocking opponents flat. The last time he appeared was during the Great War with the Demon Realm, but no one clearly saw his face. In general, this number one cultivator acted very discreetly, as it seemed he didn't want people to know his true identity. That's why the tournament had to change its rules, requiring all contestants to be present in the arena to compete. And ever since that rule came into being, as long as Mage Kim Dang kept winning consecutively, the number one cultivator in the human realm would have to appear. Because he was the number one icon of the cultivator world, he absolutely had to appear in the arena, otherwise his image would collapse in the eyes of the younger generation. Hearing his two friends rambling nonsense about him, Vuong Lang couldn't be bothered to talk. When he was only 9 years old, his father experimented with all sorts of talismans to seal his power. But his father felt they couldn't keep going like this forever, hoping his son could find a master to learn how to control his power. So Vuong Lan decided to join the cultivator tournament by competing online, hoping to find himself a super powerful master. But things didn't go as Vuong Lin wished. Our boy was literally knocking jaws off and sending competitors packing from across the arena. No biggie. And just like that, the 9-year-old Wang Ling was forced by his peers to become the number one cultivator in the human realm. Tough life, huh? Fast forward to now, and Jin Dang just casually one-shot every single other cultivator in the competition. At this rate, it won't be long before Jin Dang challenges the actual world's number one cultivator. Poor guy won't know what hit him. Right on cue, some dude who looked strong decided to make a dramatic entrance into the arena. Apparently, this guy was ranked number 6 on the Heavenly Sky rankings or whatever. But all that hype was just for show, because our one skill man still casually flattened him in a single hit. Before you could even blink, Jin Dang's next challenger arrived, the mighty Sect Master Hugh. Apparently, last tournament, he was too busy to participate, which is why he let Jin Dang claim the championship. Sure, Jan, he swore this time things would be different. But Jin Dang couldn't care less. His only dream was to fight the actual number one cultivator, not some old fogey. Jin Dong was so sick of being called the number one cultivator's disciple that he trained like crazy, all just to prove his worth. Every single day, he'd carry water for 20 kilometers. 1,000 push-ups, 1,000 wood chops. And people still call him one skill man? The audacity! Jin Dang endured all that brutal training for one, and only one, reason. To eventually fight the actual number one. Naturally, this made Sect Master Hugh absolutely furious. His ego was not prepared for such casual disrespect. But the second the Sect Master rushed in, Jin Dong just put up a tiny shield, and all of Hugh's mighty attacks dissolved into nothing. His own attack even bounced back, barely missing a full-on knockout. So the Sect Master, desperate and flustered, decided to pull out his ultimate move against Jin Dang. Even without a Jinegan or whatever, he could still summon a giant apocalypse-level meteor to throw at our boy. Sounded incredibly cool on paper, but Jin Dang just casually crushed the entire meteor with a single squeeze, leaving Hugh completely dumbfounded. And just like every other challenger, Sect Master Hugh met the same fate at the hands of our one skill man. See, back in the last tournament, everyone was talking smack, convinced Jin Dang was just trying to impersonate the real number one cultivator. Jin Dang was understandably pissed, and from that day on, he swore he'd defeat the number one cultivator and prove them all wrong. Even the renowned Sect Master Hugh couldn't handle a single move from Jin Dang, leaving the entire audience utterly speechless. If the actual instant noodle enthusiast had shown up, I'm pretty sure the world would only have had about 30 minutes left to exist. Back in the arena, the organizers announced Jin Dang would face the strongest contender from Group B, causing the folks in the back to burst into silent, knowing laughter. Because there was something super familiar about the goofy face of this so-called strongest cultivator from Group B. Turns out, it was actually a clone of Wang Ling, created from the spiritual energy of just one of his hairs. Peak lazy OP, folks. Our man Wang Ling, who just wants his peaceful life unbothered, had Zhuo Yi arrange for his clone to fight Jin Dong, even naming it after a literal pack of instant noodles. Legendary. And so, it's the battle of the world's second strongest cultivator, Jin Dong, against Wang Ling's spiritual hair clone. Fair fight, totally. Meanwhile, while all this epicness was happening, Zhuo Yi somehow ended up working at the ghost prison. Just casually, you know. Our hero of humanity used the excuse of inspecting spiritual energy from the tournament to get inside, sporting the fakest look on his face you've ever seen. But the two prison guards were just background NPCs, bless their hearts, so they didn't notice a thing. They even carefully used a demon-detecting mirror on fake Track D, but it showed absolutely nothing. And just like that, Track D fake casually waltzed into the demon prison's control room. The supervisors there were pretty confused, seeing humanity's hero suddenly pop up in their highly secure facility. But fake Track D claimed he was there to reinforce the defenses, so they had no choice but to buy his story completely. So how did Track D's laptop somehow have the Night Ghoul's logo on it? After successfully hacking the system, the prison guard robot was immediately taken over by the Night Ghoul. It was at this moment that Track D Fake finally revealed his true identity as the leader of the Night Ghoul Spirit Venerables, leaving the two supervisors absolutely bawling. He was here to rescue the Celestial Tier prisoner Baek Triet, who was being held deep within the demon prison. Meanwhile, back to the epic showdown between Kim Dong and, get this, a single strand of Vung Leng's hair. Kim Dong fully intended to finish off this opponent in one blow, as he usually did, but the hair strand was completely unfazed. So Kim Dong frantically unleashed more attacks, but not only did they deal 0 damage, a single strand of Vung Leng's hair actually grabbed him by the neck instead. Then, that same strand of hair retaliated against Kim Dong with a super gentle poke, which almost sent him flying flat on his back. However, our bald hero, Kim Dong, still struggled to get back up, determined to reclaim his honor. Seeing Kim Dong's fighting spirit, the strand of hair decided it would stick around and play a little longer. He unleashed his famous Dragon Arhat palm strike, but the single strand of hair casually blocked it with one tiny fingertip. The collision of their spiritual energies actually made the Big Shot Bone Elders super happy, because the formation just absorbed enough spiritual energy to last for the next 666 years. Kim Dong, on the other hand, was utterly shocked to see his ultimate technique get so easily shattered in a single beat. Before Kim Dong could even register what was happening, a strand of Vung Leng's hair instantly teleported in front of him and delivered a punch that made him cough up a whole rainbow. The strand of hair admitted that Kim Dong was indeed very strong, but noted he had never once shown up in any of the minor skirmishes in the human realm. Since his opponent was overwhelmingly powerful, Kim Dong decided to activate his ultimate past recollection skill. Turns out, as a child, Kim Dong not only trained incredibly hard but also possessed the innate 10,000 Worlds Divine Eyes. His master naturally hoped he would use this special power to save all living beings. After his master's unfortunate passing, Kim Dong dedicated himself to training even harder. He used the unique abilities of his eyes to help people, just as his master had wished. On that particular day, Kim Dong even used his divine eyes to fight against the Demon Realm's army. But, unbeknownst to him, the world's #1 cultivator had already arrived there first. That was the main reason Kim Dong trained tirelessly, to finally cross paths with the world's #1 cultivator. Yet, when he participated in the last tournament, he ended up getting absolutely flamed by the online community, leaving him extremely bitter and frustrated. Kim Dong's true ambition was to save all living beings, but he also refused to live in the shadow of the world's #1 cultivator. That's why Kim Dong decided to charge in and fight to the very end against a single strand of Vung Leng's hair. However, Vung Leng had some super important business to attend to at the moment, so the strand of hair would absolutely never allow Kim Dong to meet Vung Leng himself. Because right now was the critical moment for Vung Leng's younger sister to finally. Our main character Wang Ling casually sensed some chaos brewing, so he excused himself for a restroom break. His completely unbothered face was so out of pocket, his two friends were utterly bewildered. But those two promised our OP lead they'd ensure his sister Wang Yuan would be born safe and sound. Meanwhile, at the Grand Cultivation Tournament, the self-proclaimed on-kill man had just been clapped into next Tuesday by one single strand of Wang Ling's hair. The VIP commentators Kotu were non-stop praising how many ridiculously strong young cultivators had been popping up lately. Just then, intel dropped that someone was jailbreaking Pine Sea Prison, leaving everyone absolutely shook. No sooner had they said that, than the entire arena violently began to shake. Since this absolute clown, Spirit Venerable, had seized control of the entire demon prison, he casually waltzed into a celestial grade cell with 0 effort. Baija had also been chilling, waiting for Spirit Venerable, promising that if he got rescued, he'd grant the villain whatever he wished. Then, Spirit Venerable immediately whipped out a laptop and hacked into the formation system, turning the spiritual energy, originally meant to reinforce the seal, into the literal key to shatter Baija's prison. Just then, the sky suddenly turned pitch black, like the universe was sending a text message. Apocalypse incoming! While Wang Ling was away, this absolute chunky thug, a minion of Yakui, showed up in the birthing room to deal with our MC's newborn sister. Chen Chao and Guo Hao immediately stepped up to throw hands, but this fat dude's spiritual power was so overwhelming, everyone froze solid. Then, he casually deployed spiritual energy arms to smack down all the obstetricians, right as Wang Yuan was making her grand entrance. Meanwhile, Baija, finally unshackled, immediately punched a gaping hole straight through the arena floor. This made Spirit Venerable absolutely giddy, thinking he'd just unleashed a dangerously powerful ally. But for some reason, the faint cries of a newborn baby could be heard echoing through the destruction. No sooner had he thought that, than baby Wang Yuan casually took down that chunky thug in a single beat, and big bro Wang Ling, our perpetually unbothered lead, also arrived to settle his accounts with Spirit Venerable. This left Spirit Venerable absolutely flabbergasted, having zero clue how Wang Ling had even popped up. And he was even more baffled when he found out our unbothered king was just a high schooler who hadn't even graduated yet. Right after that realization, our MC casually delivered a punch that sent Spirit Venerable flying face up right then and there. Yeah, he really hadn't graduated yet, but that was apparently more than enough power to humble a clown like Spirit Venerable. Meanwhile, Jindung was still bravely trying to use his last shred of strength to fight one single strand of hair. Seeing Jindeng's absolute refusal to give up, that single strand of hair decided to bless him with a little gift. Just as he finished, Spirit Venerable, fresh from Wang Ling's casual beatdown, came flying straight back into the arena. Jindung's entire life's aspiration was to eradicate evil and protect the innocent. So when a certified supervillain like Spirit Venerable showed up right in front of him, he absolutely could not look away. Plus, this dude had just gotten absolutely clapped by Wang Ling, so this battle was practically a gift-wrapped opportunity for Jindeng. Our man Jindeng, the bald legend, quickly rushed in and absolutely walloped Spirit Venerable like a father disciplining a toddler, finishing him off with a signature Arhat palm move. Because of Spirit Venerable's grand entrance, the cultivation tournament was officially postponed, and Jindeng was interviewed as the hero who took out evil, completely changing Jiang Juman's opinion of him. At this very moment, our MC's super OP sister, Wang Yun, had officially entered the chat, receiving tons of well wishes from her big brother's squad. But our two effortlessly powerful siblings are about to face a new threat named Bai Zhe, though honestly, who's really in danger here is still up for debate. Turns out, our little god-tier accident, Vungyuan, decided to make a dramatic entrance during a full-blown thunderstorm. Meanwhile, Chenzhe Xiao, our slightly less blessed lead, gets called to the ancestral hall by his dad to meet the family elders. Apparently, our boy Chenzhe Xiao finally hit adulthood, so his old man decided it was time to bestow upon him the family's sacred heirloom, a legendary saber. This isn't just any butter knife, mind you. It holds the ancestral martial spirit of the Chenzhe clan, packing an insane amount of power. If he could wield it, it meant the ancestors had basically stamped their approval, granting him ultimate family bragging rights. Plot twist. Our boy couldn't even budge the saber, and to make matters worse, he knocked over the ancestral tablet, leaving his dad sighing like a deflated balloon. This, of course, absolutely crushed his dad, who then basically declared our boy too much of a wimp to ever lead the family. With his pride utterly stomped, Chenzhe Xiu sadly shuffled out of the ancestral hall. Just then, a glorious poster for the pure protein muscle-building sect practically smacked him in the face, inspiring our boy to hit the gym. A few days after her dramatic birth, baby Vung Noan was already making furniture levitate, causing her parents to wonder why their kids were all possessed by mischievous spirits. And every single time, her big brother Vung Ling had to step in and calm the accidental chaos. After much head-scratching, their dad decided to entrust our boy Vung Ling with the sacred mission of helping his sister control her gifts. Problem is, he's barely got a handle on his own world-ending powers. One slip up and poof, Earth's a goner. And wouldn't you know it, at that very moment, the same glorious pure protein, muscle-building sect poster caught Vung Ling's eye. So bright and early the next day, he decided to drag his little sister to this place to learn some self-control. They heard the place had the sturdiest equipment around, perfect for our two little gods of destruction to test out their powers without, destroying things. The moment they stepped foot in the gym, they were greeted by the burly, muscle-managing uncle. And when he realized Vung Ling was here to sign his baby sister up for gym training, the uncle was utterly baffled. Luckily, Ton Dung, our resident powerful but chill waifu, also happened to be a member here. Waving her elite, super-exclusive membership card, she could bring family and friends in for free, instantly granting the Vung Ling siblings the ultimate VIP treatment. Ton Dung proudly declared that the equipment here was super high-tech and top-tier, but it might still be a little light for the literal force of nature that is Vung Noan. Still, for daily practice, it would totally do the trick. Just then, all three heard the booming voice of that guy, the class president. Turns out, in his desperate bid for daddy's approval, he had sought out Master Tung Long to power up. Even though in the last episode, this master got absolutely dunked on by some dude named Kim Dong. Master Tung Long visibly bristled, but couldn't argue with a word because, well, it was true. So, he haughtily declared he only accepted students with exclusive black membership cards. Chenzhe Xiao, still smarting from his own failure, wanted to sign up to prove himself, but then nearly had a heart attack when he heard a black card cost over 1 million spirit veins. Luckily, Ton Dung, being the MVP she is, whipped out her own black card to vouch for the class president. Out of respect for our high-tier princess, Tong, Master Tung Long reluctantly agreed to take Chenzhe Xiu as a student, but only if he passed 3 of his brutal challenges. Of course, he was just saying that. His real plan was to torture Chenzhe Xiu with these challenges, just because he could. Because not only was Chen Xiu dirt poor, but he had also dared to openly challenge Master Tung Long's authority. So, this high and mighty master decided to throw the hardest challenges at him, just to make our boy lose face in front of his fellow disciples. Our innocent MC, Tran Xiu, completely missed the evil intent and thought the guildmaster was giving him a chance, so he promised to totally crush it. The first challenge Thonglong set for Tran Xiu was simple: just make this sandbag shake. Sounds like a piece of cake, but this isn't just any sandbag. It's filled with 10,000-year-old mystic iron sand, basically immovable for anyone below the nascent soul stage. Tran Xiu was all confidence at first, but the moment he punched that bag, he started yelling at the heavens, like, what kind of sand is this hard? This, of course, had the high and mighty masters absolutely cackling, mocking our boy for daring to become a disciple with such weakness. However, the legendary dragon turned stay-at-home waifu, Wang Nuan, casually tapped the sandbag, and it flew several thousand meters away. Her poor older brother Wang Ling had to zoom after it, drag the sandbag back, and then patch up the massive hole in the wall with bricks. The guildmaster heard the commotion and turned to check, but Wang Lin was so quick to clean up the mess that the wall was patched and the sandbag was back before he even fully turned around. Seeing that the guildmaster didn't suspect a thing, the two of them breathed a collective sigh of relief. Since that easy challenge was apparently too much for a literal newbie like Tran Xiu, Thonglong decided to escort him to the actual beginner's zone. Before the second challenge kicked off, the guildmaster invited Tan Dung to give our boy a little demonstration. Tan Dung immediately jumped in to flex her strength, casually pulling 100 tons, which made the guildmaster extremely pleased. The old man then started flexing that. Thanks to his dedicated guidance, Tan Dung could hit that weight after just a few weeks of training here. Seeing Tan Dung effortlessly lift those weights, Tran Xiu felt an even bigger surge of confidence for the second challenge. But the moment he sat down, those jerks immediately cranked the weight pin to the max, leaving our boy straining every muscle in his glutes, yet the weights didn't budge an inch. And after pushing himself until he was red in the face, Tran Xiu spectacularly failed challenge number 2. All that intense muscle straining left Tran Xiu gasping for air, so the uncle with the pink lips decided to give him artificial respiration. While our suffering MC, Tran Xiu, was lying there defenseless, Wang Nuan immediately seized the opportunity for some mischief. She slipped out of Wang Ling's grasp so quickly even he didn't realize she was gone. Wang Ling swiftly scooped his sister back into his arms, but in doing so, accidentally caused the entire stack of weights to suddenly drop, creating a mini-earthquake. Hearing the strange noise, the guildmaster immediately spun around to investigate, only to be met with the sight of 3 absolutely fake smiles plastered on their faces. After that little incident, the whole group moved to the dedicated weightlifting room. This wasn't just any weight. It was passed down from the guildmaster's master, imbued with his martial spirit, meaning only those with true courage could ever hope to lift it. Even the famous pink-lipped uncle took a grueling 5 years just to budge this thing. If Tran Xiu could lift this weight, it'd be like casually picking up his own divine farming tool back home. Seeing that this challenge might be a bit too spicy for Tran Xiu, the guildmaster decided to reluctantly lower the difficulty. He said if our boy could just lift the weight to his waist, he'd consider him to have passed all 3 challenges. Lifting this legendary bar felt no different than lifting his own divine treasure back home, putting immense pressure on Tran Xiu. Just as he thought he was about to crumble, he suddenly felt an inexplicable surge of power coursing through him. Outside, it wasn't just his friends, but even Wang Nuan was there, patting his shoulder, sending encouragement his way. And just like that, the secret was out. That was the real reason. Thanks to everyone's encouragement, Tran Xiu managed to overcome the immense pressure from the legendary weight Tan Ta. His whole body suddenly glowed like a star, drawing all the curious club members to witness his insane feat. Even after giving it his all, Chen Xiu barely made the legendary weight budge an inch. While everyone was focused on Chen Xiu, Noan casually grabbed a nearby weight to play with, completely unaware it was linked to the legendary one our MC was struggling with. Not only the club president, but even Chen Xiu himself couldn't believe his eyes. But the truth was, Noan didn't just help Chen Xiu lift the weight, she casually lifted the entire building into the sky. And just like that, our boy Veng Leng had to fly out again to gently put the building back where it belonged. Meanwhile, Master Tung Long was absolutely ecstatic, convinced he had finally found his true successor. The fact that Chen Xiu could easily lift the weight proved his master had finally acknowledged him. Only the poor souls awkwardly laughing in the background knew the actual comedic truth behind it all. That night, Master Tung Long was overjoyed because the muscle sect had finally found a new heir. But before he could even pop the champagne, Bak Tit unexpectedly appeared from behind. He immediately attacked Master Tung Long, instantly turning him into a tiny statue on his umbrella. Talk about a rude interruption. That same night, Chen Xiu was proudly showing off the black card he'd just earned to his old man. He was convinced he'd finally be able to lift the legendary treasure blade this time, only to end up with a sprained back, making Mr. Bo sigh in utter exasperation. Even though Noan possesses terrifying spiritual energy, at the end of the day, she's still just a little kid. That's why Mr. Bo decided to give her a surprise, a super cute pink sword. Her dad, Mr. Bo, had used the earnings from his latest work to buy Vung Noan a literal top-tier spirit sword. But seriously, look at her face. Is she bored or what? So, she casually swatted the sword to the ground, effectively sending all of Mr. Bo's hard-earned money flying right out the window. Vung Ling had to explain that this spirit sword simply couldn't withstand Noan's monstrous spiritual energy. Meanwhile, her dad was meticulously picking up every single fragment of the spirit sword from the ground, just to salvage whatever he could of his investment. All the other kids had spirit swords practically since birth, so Mrs. Vung felt her daughter deserved one too. So Vung Ling decided he'd take his little sister to find a new, even more VIP spirit sword. Meanwhile, the ghost prison had just received a fresh new inmate. This dude swore that once he was discharged, he'd make those two prison guards regret everything. A common trait among these prisoners, they talk a big game even when they're cuffed and completely helpless. Just then, Baek Triet made his grand entrance, casually handing the two unlucky guards their one-way tickets to reincarnation. The inmate thought his buddy was there to rescue him, only for Baek Triet to instantly impale him instead. Plot twist. Turns out, this guy was a disciple of Sword Immortal Pham Thuy, so Baek Triet figured he could extract some intel about the demon sword from him. The long-haired guy refused to talk, instead trying to cut a deal with Baek Triet. Too bad the weak never get a say in these things. As soon as he finished his sentence, Baek Triet pressed a button, instantly turning the long-haired guy into another statue on his umbrella. Having successfully subdued the Sword Immortal's disciple, Baek Triet then summoned him as a puppet, ordering him to lead the way to the demon sword's hiding place. Meanwhile, Vung Ling and his trusty sidekick Kneecap had already arrived at the sword-forging haven. However, the blacksmith waifu explained that his little sister would need to spend day and night training with the sword to form a bond with the sword spirit. And only when Wang Nuan fully matured would the sword spirit be instantly summoned from its secret realm. Seeing that wait time was ridiculous, Erhap suggested they just fly directly into the sword spirit's secret realm and grab one. Even though the sword spirit's secret realm was right there, it only opened automatically once every 2,000 years, and the next opening was still a millennium away. But Wang Ling, our unbothered farming king, figured they didn't need to wait that long. With a casual shrug, he merged the sword spirit and its scabbard into one, completely baffling our resident blacksmith waifu. While Wang Ling's spiritual sword was technically just wood, this was clearly no ordinary lumber. When the sword spirit sensed Wang Ling wanted to enter the secret realm, it simply waved a hand, and the barrier automatically parted for him. And this was the first time our blacksmith waifu had ever witnessed the legendary spirit-scored secret realm open in such an absurdly casual manner. Meanwhile, Baizha was led by the immortal sword's disciple to the location where the demon sword lay dormant. This cliff wasn't just where the treacherous disciple pushed his master to his demise. It was also where the master had sealed the spirit demon sword. After a few seconds of chanting, the azure demon sword slowly ascended from beneath the cliff, causing the very earth to tremble violently. The moment the azure demon sword fully emerged, Baizha immediately hurled 3 puppets forward. They instantly latched onto the demon sword, enraging it, causing it to violently fling all 3 away. But these were mindless puppets. Every time they were blasted back, they simply bounced right back to finish their job. Realizing 3 weren't enough, Baizha decided to unleash all the puppets stored within his umbrella towards the azure demon sword. The clash between the two forces erupted into a colossal explosion. Although all of Baizha's puppets were destroyed in the explosion, the demon sword was significantly weakened. Seizing the moment, Baizha produced his ancestral umbrella, intending to subdue the demon sword. Meanwhile, Wang Ling and his crew were just casually strolling inside the sword spirit's secret realm. Erhap couldn't believe how gloomy and utterly dark the secret realm actually was. This terrified our blacksmith waifu, as last time she visited, there were clearly tons of little sword spirits, but now they were all gone. As everyone was moving, a colossal fireball suddenly came hurtling down from the sky right at the group. The sword spirit casually stated that young master wouldn't need to lift a finger. A single sneeze from him would be enough to deflect that thing. Immediately afterward, a gigantic dragon slowly materialized, leaving the blacksmith waifu utterly bewildered, wondering why there was such a ferocious sword spirit here. The dragon looked imposing, sure, but next to Wang Ling, it was basically just a housefly. Wang Ling casually spun his sword spirit like a dizzying top, then tossed it right at the dragon sword spirit. The sword spirit slammed directly into the dragon's head, forcing it to bid farewell to a few front teeth and a chunk of its majestic mane. The blacksmith waifu was absolutely flabbergasted by Wang Ling's ridiculous power, while Erhap was just like, "Yup, another Tuesday." The moment that deflated dragon was unceremoniously shooed away by Wang Ling, a whole swarm of tiny sword spirits appeared, gathering around the blacksmith waifu. Turns out, all this time, the little sword spirits had been hiding out, terrified by the dragon's presence. Back in the present, Mrs. Wong was busy hanging clothes while keeping an eye on little Nuan Nuan. At first, the little one was sitting perfectly still in the yard, but then she saw a butterfly and promptly blasted it with some accidental energy, causing a nearby patch of grass to suddenly glow brilliantly. These adorable little cheese sticks standing in front of Wang Ling? Yeah, those are the nascent forms of the sword spirits. After absorbing enough of the world's spiritual energy, they'll evolve into various forms, like plant folk or even shoe folk. Thanks to Wang Ling casually chasing off that aggressive dragon sword spirit, these baby sword spirits are finally brave enough to peek out. With so many sword spirits suddenly popping up like weeds, Wang Ling was literally spoiled for choice for his sister. And just as our boy was debating with his own sword spirit, that chaotic dragon unexpectedly swooped back for a revenge arc. This time, Wang Ling just straight up powered up the other sword spirits so they could go toe-to-toe with the dragon without breaking a sweat. Among that horde of baby sword spirits, one was particularly clever. It stretched its arms out like a giant slingshot, launching itself straight at the dragon, ready to collect some of its teeth. But it didn't stop there. It used the mid-air momentum for an unstoppable follow-up, making the dragon lose yet another chunk of its mane. Wang Ling watched the whole show and was instantly impressed. Yep, this one's a keeper. Meanwhile, the swordsmithing senior sister's jaw dropped, watching this guy deliver surprise after surprise. While Wang Wan was just messing with plants back home, Baizhi suddenly showed up. He immediately started chanting a spell to summon his demonic sword, making the sky around them glow a furious red. At the exact same time, the dragon fighting those baby sword spirits suddenly got pulled away, leaving everyone involved pretty confused. Because the dragon they'd been duking it out with this whole time was actually the demonic sword itself. Plot twist! And because those baby sword spirits had ganged up on it, it reappeared looking bruised and battered, which completely flabbergasted Baizhi. At this moment, Wang Ling was in the middle of inviting the clever sword spirit from earlier to be his sister's personal sword spirit, and it totally agreed. But just as he asked its name, its entire body suddenly glowed brightly, signaling it was being summoned by someone else. It turns out the demonic sword spirit was gathering energy to attack Wang Nuan. But our little girl responded by summoning another sword spirit to deal with it, casually using nothing but a blade of grass. The sword spirit Wang Nuan summoned immediately transformed into a beast humanoid form. And this made the demonic sword spirit break out in a cold sweat, because this was the very spirit that had led the charge in ganging up on it just moments ago. Awkward. The newly appeared sword spirit immediately used 2 lampposts as leverage to attack, forcing the demonic sword spirit to try and make a run for it. But where can you run from the sun? The sword spirit immediately flew right through the sphere and delivered a soul-shattering blow to the demonic sword spirit. Baizhi watched, having no idea what was even happening, but swore that next time, someone was going to pay for this. It wasn't until he got home that Wang Ling learned his sister had already successfully summoned her own sword spirit. But what he really couldn't believe was that his sister had also summoned an extra dragon head to decorate her garden. Talk about a flex. Sometime later, Ling Zun suddenly returned to meet his subordinates in the Night Spectre organization. But by now, he'd been transformed into a jade statue by Baizhi, which scared them absolutely senseless. He then regretfully announced to his subordinates that Ling Zun was now his property. As soon as he finished speaking, he ordered his puppet to send them, one by one, to reincarnate into Chu Mei's world. Under Baizhi's meticulous care, the once notorious Night Spectre organization, let's just say Baizhi had a very specific, totally logical reason for setting his sights on Ye Kui. Because he was just this close to having enough spiritual energy to unlock the ultimate treasure of the Tao ancestor. Even the elite youth Ling Tun scouted couldn't hold a candle to the big shots in the cultivation world. On top of that, Baizhi also had his eyes on Wang Ling's sister, so he was dead set on kidnapping her, no matter what it took. Just then, a shadowy figure popped up unexpectedly behind Baizhi. These two seemed to be old acquaintances, so Baizhi wasn't exactly surprised. He then casually handed the shadow 4 green statues, asking it to decipher the ancestor's treasure. After getting his gift from Baizhi, the shadow quickly enveloped the egg before them with a surge of dark energy. The egg immediately hatched, unleashing an unknown energy skyward, which then ripped open a gate connecting Earth and the Moon. Baizhi called this the Ascension Art. Right after, Baizhi zoomed through the egg to the moon, ready to start his grand plan of becoming the ultimate overlord. Back at the academy, the teacher suddenly put on a super cute act today, leaving everyone in class utterly baffled. Because today the class was officially welcoming back Wang Ling, and with him, his sister, Wang Nuan. The little sister was absolutely ecstatic to go to school, but her big brother's face, though, pure misery. Flashback a few hours earlier. As Wang Ling was getting ready for school, Nuan suddenly clung to him like a limpet. Their parents were super happy to see the siblings so close. Seeing Nuan had absolutely no intention of letting go of her big brother, Mr. Wang hoped his son could take her to school. Wang Ling was totally against it at first, but honestly, how could anyone say no to that adorable face? Plus, this was a perfect chance for Mr. and Mrs. Wang to rekindle their romance after the whole pregnancy thing. So, Wang Ling had to ask Teacher Kang to get permission from Teacher Pan for his sister to join the class for a day. But Teacher Pan flat out refused, asking who would take responsibility if anything happened to the little one. Just then, Wang Yuan whipped out her ultimate cute kid privilege, and the teacher simply couldn't refuse. Teacher Pan's sudden 180 was faster than an ex-girlfriend's mood swing, leaving Teacher Kang utterly flabbergasted. He couldn't even believe she had already prepared a brand new uniform for Wang Yuan. Even Wang Ling didn't expect his sister to win over both main teachers with just one adorable glance. Today's lecture was all about the heavenly Tao. Long ago, the ancestors of the cultivation world created the heavenly Tao, and to keep it out of wicked hands, they sealed it away on the moon. But getting to the moon wasn't easy, which is why today's lesson was the ascension art. Theoretically, all you needed was a sufficiently massive amount of spiritual energy to use the ascension art and open a path to the moon. But exactly how much spiritual energy? Even the teacher couldn't estimate that. While their spiritual energy might not be enough to open a full path yet, it was the perfect foundation for learning space magic later on. Afterward, the teacher gave the class a bit of time for some hands-on practice. Chen Chao was the first to give it a try, and he managed to open a portal directly to the restroom, making the whole class absolutely erupt in laughter. But the teacher just shrugged, saying it was totally normal, since they were only just getting started with it after all. In stark contrast to Chen Chao, Sun Rong, however, absolutely showed off her exceptional skills. She quickly whipped up a portal to the teacher's lounge, helping her grab the stack of graded tests, instantly earning a shower of praise. After that, she popped over to Wang Ling's place to play with our precious little Nuan. She praised Nuan for being so talented at just a few months old, already drawing with a pen, completely oblivious that the kid was actually scribbling an ascension seal. Just then, a pillar of light, bright as a tractor's headlight, suddenly flared up outside. Meanwhile, back inside, Wang Nuan had already conjured a portal connecting directly to the two-headed monster's lair. Luckily, Miss Sang's theatrics outside drew everyone's attention, giving Wang Ling a quick window to close the portal. Miss Fan casually explained that it was probably just some unusual natural phenomenon caused by a cultivator undergoing tribulation, so no need to panic. But in reality, that pillar of light had just been conjured by Baitie to blast a path for himself straight to the moon. He couldn't believe how smoothly everything was going. Just one more step, and he could finally grasp what they called the heavenly Tao itself. As he finished speaking, Baitie immediately cast a spell to unseal the moon's surface, causing a shimmering golden gate to materialize right after. In front of the gate stood a 5-star, 3-coin army. They had clearly sensed someone attempting to lay claim to the heavenly Tao. Hearing this, the army immediately mobilized towards Baitie, but he wasn't exactly shaking in his boots. Because all he had to do was clear out this meddlesome bunch, smash the gate, and it would pretty much be game over. With that, he immediately summoned a legion of jade puppets to attack and ordered them to destroy the gate. Back at the 60 Gates Academy, Guo Hao had just aced his assessment with a solid 8 points, making his teacher quite pleased. But what really puzzled him was why one of the target markers up front was inexplicably pink. Teacher Kang explained this was a gift he'd painstakingly prepared to welcome Wang Nuan into the academy, leaving all their friends utterly dumbfounded. After some more casual banter, the next person to step up for the test was Sun Rong. With her husband and future brother-in-law watching, she was absolutely determined to get a perfect score. But for Sun Rong, this was as easy as eating 3 bowls of rice, so she effortlessly nailed a perfect score on her very first try. The next up was Chen Chao, and as the class president, this young man wanted to do something extra cool. So he decided to rely purely on physical strength, but his sword ended up flying straight into the sky, resulting in Teacher Kang mercilessly failing Chen Chao. The next person to take the test was Wang Ling. Seeing his little sister also eager to try, he decided to set an example for her. Meanwhile, the ancestors' 5-star, 3-coin army had been utterly routed by Baitie's ragged jade army. Thanks to that, he could casually stroll right up to the heavenly Tao as if he owned the place. But just as the gate opened, the ancestor's massive hand suddenly materialized, snatching Baitie. The immense pressure he exerted rendered Baitie temporarily immobile. Back at the academy, our boy Wang Ling initially planned to show his sister how it's done, but if he actually used his full power, this whole academy would just fold. So, he performed the test in the most utterly normal way possible, and immediately failed. But Sun Rong was absolutely thrilled that the lecture hall remained intact, leaving Teacher Kang utterly bewildered as to why they were so happy despite having just scored a goose egg. Just then, Nuan also decided she wanted to step up for the test. Even though she wasn't outwardly flinging around any fancy sword aura, Teacher Kong was still super impressed, because for such a tiny human, she already had that killer learning spirit, totally unlike her elder brother, our accidentally OP lead, who's usually just chilling. Right then, Vung Link realized his little sister had just casually unleashed an invisible burst of spiritual energy that absolutely demolished the target dummy. And then she went and trashed the iron fence too, so Vung Link had to step in, creating a massive gust of wind to cushion the blow. He literally never expected his sister's accidental sword chi to be this insanely powerful. Since he couldn't just nope his sister's attack out of existence, he had to redirect it, sending it harmlessly into the sky. Meanwhile, Baktit was about to get choked out by some ancestral spirit energy, when Vung Link's conveniently redirected sword chi accidentally saved his bacon. Seeing there were still plenty of heavy hitters below, he just got even more hyped to snatch this treasure. Right on cue, the elven guardians of the scripture vault also picked up signals that the ancestors' treasure was getting messed with. No sooner had they said that than Baktit dramatically emerged from below, absolutely shocking the elves. Daring to waltz into such a sacred spot of the heavenly Tao? This dude's got more guts than a tiger, and he's not even furry. The green elf tried to calm his two brothers, saying, "Relax, guys, I got this. One of me is plenty for this chump." Baktit just scoffed, because he definitely didn't show up to this party unprepared. Right then, the green elf swole up into his hulking, muscular combat form, ready to throw down with this back guy. He quickly summoned some spatial chains, hoping to lock Baktit down. He'll slowly become a trash-tier nobody, the elf thought, as the chains were designed to drain spiritual power. But Baktit just gave a casual smirk, and nope, he was already completely free from the green elf's control, then hit him with a surprise attack that instantly reverted the elf back into a precious little gem. So the other elves piled on, rushing to rescue their brother, but Baktit was just too ridiculously overpowered now. The purple elf tried to use mind control magic, aiming to manipulate Bakthit's brain. But thanks to the ancestor's staff, he was now completely immune to all types of mind control nonsense. Then, Baktit flexed, summoning his own spatial chains to control the remaining elves. They instantly reverted into shiny gems and flew right back to Baktit, looking exactly like Thanos just finished collecting his infinity stones. With his current power, the entire domain of the heavenly Tao basically had to bow down to him. After successfully collecting his very own infinity gems, Baktit dropped a single blood-red drop into a well, and lo and behold, images of Vung Link and his sister popped up. Turns out, this dude's main goal was revenge on these two kids. It had been ages since Vung Link last stepped foot in 60 Gates Academy, so he casually brought his girlfriend and two random bros, Coot, down to the cafeteria for some dried chicken. Just then, Baktit dramatically appeared on a live broadcast. Baktit proudly introduced himself to the entire world as the undisputed #1 cultivator in the human realm. He was here to inform everyone that two extremely dangerous criminals had just broken out of the ghost realm. And those criminals were none other than the noodle-obsessed menace Vung Link and his sister Vung Nuan, whose crime was this local bully, Baijet, just slapped a kingdom-wide bounty on our protagonists, declaring them extremely dangerous. And just to make things interesting, this guy just casually mind-controlled all of humanity. What a clown. Catch either of these dangerous folks, and you'll snag a bounty of 10 bags of dried chicken and 10 billion spirit stones. Priorities, people. Our casually overpowered Wang Ling was just minding his business, enjoying his favorite dry noodles, when his friends decided to pull a sudden betrayal. Guohao even said he believed Wang Ling was innocent, right before sneakily slapping a pair of handcuffs on our cozy lead. Our plot-armored protagonist, Wang Ling, effortlessly broke free right away, but he was instantly mobbed by every single classmate. Even his resident tsundere, Sun Rong, was pointing her sword at him, which honestly had our unbothered MC pretty surprised. Turns out, Baijet had pulled a mind wipe, replacing all of Wang Ling's precious girlfriend memories with some random girl. Our MC was genuinely shook. Naturally, she decided it was time to throw hands with Wang Ling, cornering our boy with no escape. Jianning showed up right after, wondering what the heck was going on, but our MC was like, "Hold that thought, I gotta run first." Meanwhile, Wang Ling's former classmates were either selling him out for a measly 10 bags of dried chicken, or worshipping Baijet like some kind of saint, which of course made that egomaniac incredibly smug. He was literally live-streaming Wang Ling's position to every single cultivator on the planet. Talk about overkill. Meanwhile, the self-righteous Ziti brought a whole squad of cultivators to besiege the home of felon Wang Ling. Rumor has it, Wang Ling's grandparents were already snagged by another team at the local market. And get this, even poor Erha, who is literally just a dog, got arrested too. Brutal. Zeti, the self-proclaimed hero, ordered his goons to interrogate the Wang grandparents even further, because the real mission was to capture the demon child, Wang Nuan, and bring her to justice. Zeti gravely warned his team to be on maximum alert, because apparently this child Wang Nuan was actually incredibly dangerous. Sure, Jan. Meanwhile, poor suffering Ha was getting absolutely bullied by Zeddy's henchmen. Zeddy dramatically busted down the Wang grandparents' front door, only to find the demon child Wang Nuan just casually playing inside. Seeing them, she just casually used her pinwheel to blow a bunch of soap bubbles, totally making those overconfident goons drop their guard. But the moment they touched, those bubbles exploded with a massive bang, leaving Zeddy absolutely fuming. So he instantly pounced to grab Wang Nuan, but to his utter shock she just flew away, casual. Fuming with rage, Zeddy ordered his henchmen to hit her with the ultimate bully move, ganging up. But Wang Nuan, being the ultimate boss baby, suddenly enchanted the standing fan and TV, turning them into her personal pawns. The fan could now freeze enemies solid, and the TV could blast 10,000 volts like a literal Pikachu. Talk about an upgrade. Meanwhile, our accidentally overpowered protagonist, Wang Ling, was still dodging random cultivators, and his bounty just casually skyrocketed to a cool 10 billion bell. And Sun Rong? She went full yandere, calling in her entire family army, plus all the classmates, to hunt down our item of an MC, Wang Ling. She even got her grandpa's people to set up a legendary barrier, just to trap Wang Ling in a public park. Talk about overkill. So many cultivators joined this bounty free-for-all. They even sent armored tanks to capture our criminal, who literally just wants to eat his dry noodles in peace. The special ops team above unleashed a literal hail of copper candies at Wang Ling, but not a single one could even think about touching our plot-armored protagonist. Seizing her chance, Sun Rong lunged to attack her two-faced ex, but our farming king Wang Ling effortlessly dodged like he was just stretching. Sun Rong thought Wang Ling wasn't attacking because he was underestimating her, but with just a casual flick of his wrist, he completely made her lose her composure. So Sun Rong ordered her cannons to attack, but Wang Ling just casually blocked them with 2 fingers. Sun Rong kept chasing Wang Ling, trying to attack him, so he had no choice but to pull out the legendary Talk no Jutsu from that one blonde kid. He then reminded Sun Rong of all the time they had spent together, like watching meteor showers, releasing star lanterns, overcoming countless hardships, and most importantly, the promise they made back then. Right then, Wang Ling destroyed Sun Rong's sword, then sealed it with a kiss, perfectly following the script of any cheesy romance drama. Countless memories flooded Sun Rong's mind, instantly snapping her out of that mind control spell by that dude Bai Jie. After regaining consciousness, Sun Rong immediately apologized to Wang Ling, but he just told her it wasn't her fault. Meanwhile, Bai Jie, who was getting absolutely sick of being third-wheeled, stepped forward to challenge Wang Ling. He confidently bragged that he had already ascended to the heavenly Tao, so Wang Ling had no chance against him now. So Sun Rong told Wang Ling to go save the world, promising to handle all the mind-controlled classmates herself. Not wanting his girlfriend to fight alone, Wang Ling gave Sun Rong his sword spirit before heading off to settle the score with that dude Bai Jie. Sun Rong was also ready to face her closest friends alone, because her feelings for Wang Ling were pure love. Wang Ling barely returned home when he saw his little sister casually playing in her rocking chair. Around her were senior immortal Joy Yi and several other unlucky cultivators, all conveniently knocked out cold by the little girl. RMC then just picked up his sister and carried her upstairs. Bai Jie laughed maniacally, thinking the heavenly Tao gate had closed, so Wang Ling would never be able to reach him now. But as he finished speaking, Wang Ling and his sister casually walked in through the front door, stunning Bai Jie into utter disbelief. Turns out the gate to the heavenly Tao was just Wang Ling's wardrobe door, and he could open it anytime he wanted. Bai Jie was speechless, literally, as he'd spent 1,000 years planning to reach this place. And now, after absorbing 7 literal infinity stones, he confidently declared Wang Ling was just a minor inconvenience. With that, Wang Ling casually asked his sister if she wanted to fight alongside him. Seeing Wang Nuan's excited face, he figured Bai Jie better start preparing for his inevitable defeat. Because now, the wrath of an immortal king was about to descend. Even though his closest friends had turned their backs on him, Wang Ling wasn't alone, because the most important person still believed in him. As soon as he finished, Bai Jie unleashed a palm strike towards Wang Ling. But Wang Ling not only took 0 damage, he countered so hard it sent Bai Jie flying all the way to the moon. This was supposed to be the exclusive domain of an ancient cultivation ancestor, yet the Wang siblings were just casually strolling around, which absolutely bewildered Bai Jie. He immediately summoned a puppet and supersized it into a giant to fight. The giant threw a punch at Wang Ling, only to get its arm ripped off in retaliation, and Wang Nuan swiftly finished it off right after. So Bai Jie decided to go all out, aiming to take down Wang Nuan first before dealing with Wang Ling. He instantly teleported behind the siblings, planning a sneaky ambush. But Wang Ling just mirrored his move, teleporting behind Bai Jie, and casually knocked out his front teeth. Meanwhile, our resident tiny but mighty waifu had already casually dealt with the puppet Bai Jie just threw out. The siblings absolutely clobbered him, forcing him to literally eat one of his own puppets just to heal up. Wang Nuan was practically just born yesterday, yet she's already this absurdly powerful, making Baijet covet her even more. So, he decided to summon a demonic sword, thinking it would give him an edge against the dynamic duo. But of course, Baijet's efforts were utterly futile, as expected. Down below, Wang Nuan casually summoned a single blade of grass, then handed it to her brother. And with just one casual swing from Wang Ling, the mighty demonic sword that had just materialized was instantly banished back to the void. In desperation, Baijet pulled out his ultimate move, summoning the legendary staff of his ancestor to deal with the siblings. So Wang Ling reluctantly had to remove the seal on his spirit energy, just to remind this clown exactly who was boss. But Baijet completely scoffed at this, because in his hands he wielded a whopping 3,000 heavenly Daos, which of course meant Wang Ling then had to summon 36,000 heavenly Daos just to re-establish the pecking order. Then Wang Nuan, with her trusty pinwheel, conjured an underworld bind, completely immobilizing the ancestor's staff and making Baijet freak out like a total lunatic. As soon as that opening appeared, Wang Ling moved in, shackling Baijet and effectively shutting down his endless stream of bragging. Our MC instantly launched himself into the sky, then plummeted back down at a terrifying god-tier speed, making Baijet literally soil himself and creating a massive explosion. Baijet genuinely thought his measly 3,000 heavenly Daos were enough to lord over everyone, but he clearly didn't realize Wang Ling was packing a cool 36,000 Han heavenly Daos. Taking advantage of Wang Ling, having just resealed his immense spiritual power, Baijet quickly manipulated his own umbrella, turning Wang Nuan into his personal puppet. And then, without skipping a beat, he absorbed her completely. Naturally, this made Wang Ling absolutely furious. He was about to go full berserk on Baijet, but the villain warned him not to do anything foolish, because your little sister is currently inside my belly. After being absorbed by Baijet, Wang Nuan was unexpectedly transported to a desolate, colorless world. It was there that she stumbled upon a master carrying his disciple, desperately fleeing from some formidable enemies. Seeing their plight, Wang Nuan instantly stepped up to block the attacks for both of them, only to realize she couldn't actually physically touch anything. Delan demanded the master hand over the child, claiming it was absolutely crucial for the grand plan of their Shadow Corps organization. The power gap between them was immense, so Delan smugly told the master to surrender now and save everyone's time. Despite his injuries, the master declared he'd rather sacrifice his old life than let Delan achieve his wicked goals. With that, the master summoned a magical umbrella, tied it to the child, and flung them both far away to safety. This, of course, absolutely enraged Delan, and so he promptly dealt with the master right then and there. Meanwhile, high above, Wang Nuan was silently observing the entire tragic scene unfold. Although he had just escaped Delan's clutches, Baijet was immediately pursued by a pack of black hounds. Faced with this dire situation, Baijet had no choice but to fight back desperately, somehow managed. The moment that shady umbrella touched the black hound, it instantly transmuted the poor pupper into a shiny jade puppet. Then the umbrella suggested our boy Bak Triet just, eat the jade for a quick power-up. Before Bak Triet could even process that highly suspicious advice, the umbrella went full villain mode, using mind manipulation to make him absolutely thirsty for power. And just like that, persuaded by the umbrella's friendly advice, Bakshi Trit chowed down on the black hound Jade, instantly bulking up as his wounds miraculously healed. From that day forward, Bak Triet had a chilling realization. Raw power was everything. He started his quest to collect spirit-infused creatures, all to fuel his ever-growing thirst for power. He rationalized this was the only way to ensure he wouldn't get swallowed by others, believing only the strongest cultivator could fix this injustice-ridden world. And now, Wang Nuan became the final piece in Bak Triet's grand villainous scheme. He figured if he could just refine her, he'd literally dominate the entire world. But before Bak Triet could even finish his monologue, Wang Nuan served him a reality check with a punch so hard his teeth went flying. See, Wang Nuan just wanted to be a cute, chill baby, but seeing this clown's messed up dreams, she had no choice but to drop some wisdom on his sorry self. Bak Triet was absolutely flabbergasted, getting lectured by a literal 3-month-old baby. And just to punctuate her point, Wang Nuan delivered 2 more slaps, sending 2 more of his teeth into orbit. Wang Nuan couldn't care less that she was literally stomping through Bak Triet's tragic backstory. If you want revenge, go file a complaint with the authorities, but don't drag innocent people into your mess. Bak Triet, you're a menace because your parents obviously didn't give you enough timeouts, and society clearly dropped the ball on your education. And if literally no one else can whip Bak Triet into shape, then this young lady right here will personally handle his re-education. Back in reality, our villain Bak Triet, looking a little worse for wear, tried to warn Wang Ling not to act rashly, because if Wang Ling dared to destroy him, his sister would simply cease to exist. So if he wanted his precious sister to be safe and sound, Wang Ling had to obediently surrender and accept his fate. But before he could even finish that classic villain monologue, Wang Nuan delivered another power punch, shattering a few more of his teeth. Outside, Wang Ling watched Bok Triet flailing in agony and instantly recognized his sister's handiwork. Inside, Bok Triet took such a brutal beating that he literally puked up the jade containing the Grandmaster's concentrated power-up. Seeing this, Wang Ling joined the fray, throwing punches to help his sister free all those poor souls Bok Triet had absorbed. Wang Nuan and Wang Ling, working in perfect sync, utterly pummeled Baijet until he coughed up, while everything, in the blink of an eye, everything Baijet had ever absorbed was violently unabsorbed and kicked right back out. The moment Wang Ling touched Baijet's fancy umbrella, the cursed thing decided to shapeshift into another Wang Ling, trying to tempt our boy down a dark path. But you know our boy Wang Ling, he just wants to live his best normal life, so he literally couldn't care less. And just like that, he casually smashed that imposter right out of existence, completely dumbfounding both Baijet and the now broken umbrella clone. The spirits, finally waking up from their ordeal, immediately bowed down to thank Wang Ling for his casual universe-saving intervention. Our boy, ever the unbothered ruler, then calmly ordered the spirits to restore the entire world and everyone's memories. But Wang Ling had bigger, more important things to worry about, namely, checking up on his leading lady, Sun Rong. Turns out his worries were completely pointless, because by the time he looked, Sun Rong had already casually handled literally everything. Everyone's memories came flooding back right after, leaving them utterly confused about why they were suddenly back to normal. Taking a moment, Wang Ling thanked Sun Rong for standing by him when the entire world seemed to be against him. Naturally, Sun Rong, ever the clever waifu, asked for a kiss as her well-deserved reward. But before things could get too spicy, Wang Nuan casually teleported in to shut down their little PDA session. After getting absolutely clobbered by the Wang siblings, Baijet was unceremoniously hauled off to demon prison by some otherworldly authorities. But just as our resident human hero was basking in his victory, the shadowy figure from before totally pulled a cheap shot and stabbed him in the back. Turns out, it was a demonic child incarnate, who then dramatically declared an epic, life-or-death showdown with Wang Ling. It's Wang Nuan's first birthday today, so the elder Wang decided to throw a massive party, inviting all their friends and family for a cozy gathering. The elder Wang laid out all the gifts from everyone, letting the little princess pick whatever she wanted, all in hopes she'd choose something for her own brilliantly awesome future. Sun Rong, ever the practical future sister-in-law, just gave her a literal black card, because what else do you get a princess with infinite power? Xiao Yu brought a spirit sword, and the resident training maniac, naturally, gifted her a super heavy dumbbell. Orgo gave her a fancy watch, and Fatty Guo Hao, being Fatty Guo Hao, just gave her a literal mountain of snacks. But Wang Nuan, being the little boss she is, quietly ignored all the super fancy gifts and just picked a simple pinwheel, deciding that her future would be entirely